Hey, Rebel Bankers, welcome back. This is your host, Chris Noggle, and I'm really excited you guys are joining me and my guest for another awesome episode. So with me today, I have Jon Lee. Now, I'm not going to give his whole bio because he is got a story that you need to hear, but let me just kind of give you a couple pointers on it. So Jon's from LA, started investing in 2012 and has been doing it full time since then. He started in creative financing, so money, money, money. We're going to get to that, but he started in the creative financing. You may or may not know of this, but there's this little RIA. It's actually a really big RIA out in California called the Outback RIA. He founded that. They just recently shifted it over to Enigma Mastery, which he's going to tell us a little bit about what that is. And there's so much more. I mean, he's doing large acreage land development, but I think one of the cool things about Jon's story that he's going to get into is, we're always talking about money. We're always talking about your network. We're talking about how important your network is to your net worth. Well, Jon met what we like to call the mentor, right? The mentor, the multimillionaire that you have to work up to, that you have to seek out. But when you do seek them out and you provide value to them, amazing opportunities come. And Jon's going to talk about the opportunities that this Mr. O has presented to him and kind of where that's changing everything he's doing in his life. And we're going to also go a little bit into his background story. But before we dive too much into that story, I want to start with all of you. So all of you, some of you might be here for the first time. Some of you have watched other episodes, but you all know that this is about real estate. It's about money, and it's about you becoming a rebel banker. And on your journey to becoming a rebel banker, you're going to be faced with all sorts of different hurdles that you have to get over. Most every single person has a hurdle called money. And a lot of people hit that hurdle and they just stop, because they say, I don't have any money, so I guess I can't do this. Well, that's where you're wrong. That's where you make a huge mistake. And that's some of the things we're going to talk about today. But the other thing we always talk about is not just the hurdles, but it's about your willingness to take action. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you gather in your life. Knowledge is only a tool. And if you don't apply that tool to get results, that knowledge is completely worthless. So you need to get started. You need to take action, and you need to take the leap. So getting started starts in all different places. It can start with grabbing a copy of my book, The Private Money Guide, watching prior episodes of this podcast and many others, but just do something to take action. So with that being said, Jon, thank you so much for joining us for the show today. And before we get into anything else, why don't you just tell them a little bit about where you're at today, what your business looks like, and then let's take a trip back in time.
Absolutely. And I appreciate being here, Chris. Quick correction, though, and I think it was just a slip of the tongue, but it hit. We're actually based in Las Vegas.
I did. I said Las.
So no worries. But we're based in Las Vegas. I'm actually a Las Vegas native. I was born and raised here. And and the Outback Real Estate Investment Network was originated in Las Vegas. So that's where I'm calling from right now. I guess if you want the quick story, all the way, from here to real estate was simply this. Went to high school, went to the Army afterwards. I was lucky to be picked up as a warrant officer and a pilot in the Army. I flew Apache helicopters, got out in 2006. And from there, I started in North Carolina in the real estate side of things. I got picked up or hired to sell manufactured modular homes. And I didn't even know what a modular home was at the time, but I researched it and I wanted to make money. I wanted to get into sales, and I fell in love with the product. And so I did that for 2 years, made a great killing, got out when the bottom fell out of the market, didn't lose anything, and took some time to finish my degree and do a couple other things. So when I moved back to Las Vegas and from North Carolina in 2012, I was already steeped in real estate and wanted to get into the investing game here. So I went and sought out a mentor, connect with a few people, went to a couple meetings, and then I found my first mentor, and he's still a mentor to me. His name is Mark Collard. He started the Outback. He started the Outback Real Estate Investment Network in January 2012. I met him a few months later, immediately paid for his tutelage, did a 6-month training program. And about midway through, I told him, I said, look, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And I did. And he was so inspired by it. And he was coaching at the time, but he had a huge portfolio meltdown in the last crash. And so he said, "Hey, John, you and my better half, Carmen, you guys make me want to get back into the game to start investing again." I said, "Great, let's become business partners." And then we were business partners since then. So January 2013, all the way up till now, we've been business partners in investing, in agency when I was still licensed. Don't particularly like being licensed. So I stopped that after 4 years. And then the Outback, and then we did some coaching for people too. And we started as a kind of a grassroots, just a networking event people come to. And over time, I saw that we were growing, and in our attendance and our influence, we were, number one or number two in the city in terms of growth and size, and how many people attend and what influence do we have. And so we had a conversation and made a point to say, look, we can either just kind of let the Outback putter along and keep doing what we're doing, or we can actually commit to what the full potential of the group can be and what we can do with it. And so I actually made a decision that's a little bit different than most people. Most people would outright pursue, to the best of their ability, the max amount of volume of properties that they can do, like this, pursue real estate. I looked at the Outback and what it was offering us in the network, that it's its own business, but it'll facilitate real estate for us. I just got to treat it like a business. So that's what we did. And so I took over all functions. I was already taking over functions of the Outback, but took it over and just turned it into its own business, treated it like a business so it could self-justify. And because of that, and because of being the center of, I'm not going to say the center of attention, but becoming a destination for multiple people, investors looking for money, investors looking for property and money, lenders that want to put their money in real estate, and all kinds of other different niches, it allowed me to play in a lot of different spaces. And so that's what we did. So on average, maybe a house a month is what we would do. Creative finance is what we're very good at. That's what Coach taught me. And while everybody else is out there fighting for the next wholesale or the next fix and flip, and Vegas is a very competitive market, I would always tell everybody, hey, send me the leads you don't want. Send me the properties that don't have enough equity for you. Send me the properties that have some financial hair on them. And those are the properties that we would deal with. And through creative financing and understanding financing and leverage, we would try to restructure those properties in a way that everybody can make money off of them. Some we would wholesale, some we'd hold on to, and go on from there. So that's what my residential real estate niche is, my focus, what I'm good at. And I like no competition. I don't buy at auctions. I don't try to hunt I've done some wholesaling, but it's generally, it falls in my lap, and if it makes sense, then we'll wholesale it, that kind of thing. But for the most part, I go where everybody's not going. And so the group grew large. We've had over almost 150 people in a meeting for Vegas and the size of this population. That's great. Mm-hmm. We charge, we have memberships, we were charging, and things worked out fine. About a year and a half ago, I'm trying to make the long story short. About a year and a half ago, I connected with, through an associate of his at a networking event, a billionaire, but he's a recluse. He's a Howard Hughes type. And apparently this is a person that's had a very public life in Vegas in the past, but about 14, 15 years ago, he said, the heck with the world. I'm done with private life, and I'm just going to, keep my anonymity. And he has a very close circle of friends, but that he still contacts with. And still does a lot of business with. But this is a recluse billionaire. He has a net worth of just under $9 billion, owns about 150.
Whoa, hold on. Did you say billion?
Billion. Yeah, I guess I'll have another correction. So yeah, he has a net worth of just under $9 billion, has 47 businesses that he oversees from on high. And he has about 150 square miles worth of land that he owns, with most of it being oceanfront or beachland, beachfront land. And you know what? I'll be very honest with you. You have certain opportunities just kind of get in front of you. A lot of people don't know what to do with them sometimes if they're not ready for it. But I literally met this guy. His pitch was kind of corny when I met him, but he said, "Hey, I'd like to connect you with Mr. O." That's his pseudonym. That's who he is. And a video conference meeting, and I was not really interested, but I was like, yeah, okay. I tell everybody before, I've met a billionaire before, and I've met, very close to a billionaire before, like a $900 million net worth individual. And both of them were jerks. Like I just outright jerks. Like I wanted, and so I wasn't really wanting to meet anybody else or even, engage with. And what Mr. O does is, he's 80 years old and he does consulting, and he's like, I don't want Alzheimer's. I got all the money in the world. I love doing deals and I want to help other people out. And he has what's called the 13 standards of knowledge, which I'll break down in a second. But I met with him, and immediately I got along with him. We got along fine. And he was telling me that he built most of his net worth through real estate and through raw land, specifically flipping land and cash flowing raw land and developing different unique concepts. And I said, okay, if you can develop raw land, or if you can cash flow raw land like that, I want to know what you know, because everything else in real estate beyond that's easy. I mean, that's just the truth, because it all trickles down from there. That's the top of where you start, and it just trickles down from there. So I paid for his tutelage, paid a hefty little sum for his tutelage, and started working well with them, trying to figure things out, understanding, he teaches how to think like a billionaire and then act on those thoughts like a billionaire. And so it took me probably about 5 months working with him to kind of get a focus in a way that I could feel comfortable, like, let's pursue this, because all the options in the world are available to you. So after a while, I figured, okay, I want to learn how to raise money. I want to learn how to do real estate like you do. And so that's what we did. And we were having so much success. I said, hey, sir, I need to put a team together. Do you mind if I put a team together and I can't do the secondhand knowledge thing. So can you just engage with the team too, like you engage with me? He said, sure. So I put a team together. We've had even more success. And then he was like, wow, this is so good. Let's put a couple more teams together. So I created multiple teams out of the Outback, people within the Outback that I trusted, and invited in. And in the past 10 months, I mean, we've put together just under $19 million. And it's going to soon be 20, because I just put in a contract to an agent for more land, but for $1.2 million. But just in the past 10 months, just under $19 million in land, about 2,000 acres spread out across 4 different states. And all that acreage has a plan for it, has a business development plan for it. And so that's what I do now. So instead of residential real estate, my focus is, large acreage rural tracts and land for the purposes of unique development. Instead of people trying to develop a certain concept and then go find the land for it, we just go find land from people that are willing to work with us on a specific type of option that we've created. And that means we go in the property with no money down, fully control the property, and we developed quite a bit from that.
So if you're doing this, I'm assuming a lot of this is creative financing, working with the seller of the property to give them something on the back end. Can you just explain like a quick way for the audience of like how that would work? Because a lot of people think of buying land and they're like, well, I can't finance land very easily. Right. I need cash to buy the land. So most people don't even look at land, because they just think that that's the only option. So how does a deal actually happen with the way you're doing this?
Absolutely. Or they don't know what to do with it. And
that's true. Really and I wouldn't either. I mean, we mostly do existing property. So if I had a bunch of land, I wouldn't even know where to start to know what's the viable option.
Absolutely. So there's a concept I'll share with everybody that it sets context for what I'm about to say. Okay. The less developed a piece of land is, or the less improvements a piece of land has, the higher the profit potential. Okay. So think about it. If I have a house that I know I'm going to do a rehab on, right? I can only make so much profit. People try to get in there, 15, 20% if they're lucky and call it a day, right? There's only so much profit available because it's already built up. There's only so much you can do with it, right? Now, if I took a piece of property that, let's say, it's already been entitled, it's zoned, it's subdivided for lots, well, I can sell those lots off and I can make more money than I can on this one individual property, but I'm still limited in what I can create based on the market, right? If I have 1,000 acres of land anywhere, right? The world's my oyster. Now I got to come up with the concept development for it, but I can, if I can get it for dirt cheap, which generally you can, or I can get it no money down, which means my capital is not spent on the land, it's spent on the business development. I can create a concept for that property that allows me to profit 1,000, 2,000%, if not more. And that's the point. Can I profit 20% off of a couple 100,000, or can I spend a couple 100,000 on a certain amount of acreage and profit 1,000 or 2,000%? And that's the to do. That's the understanding. So again, the less improved the property is, the more profit potential it has. Now, that being said, generally I look for a specific type of seller. I look for somebody that has lots of land, or land for sale, excuse me. They don't need the money right now. Generally it's owned free and clear, right? And they're open to getting paid later, right? And they don't necessarily need to sell the property right then either, right? So this is just like almost a passive play for them. And basically offer them this. I say, look, would you like to, work with us for 2 years? I don't want to put my money into the land. I want to put my money into the development of the concept that I create for it. That's where I want to put my capital. And then with that, if we pay you off in 6 months, we'll pay you the price that you're asking, fair market. I'm not going to negotiate with it. Like if you want, I don't know, 2,000 an acre, and that's what it makes sense, and that's what the fair market value is, I'll pay for that, right? Now, if we'll pay you up to 25% more for your land on the back end if you're willing to work with us, depending on how long it takes. So we generally give 2-year option. The first 6 months, we pay you the money that you owe. The second 6 months, we'll add 8.33% to it. The third 6 months, we'll add another 8.33% to it. And then the last 6 months, we'll add 8.34, totaling 25% over what you're asking for it. Now, everything we do is to get paid off in 6 months, but what it does is it allows us to get the opportunity to get in, get control of the land, put our capital to the business development, and then any improvements we generally do, if for some reason we don't perform, which we haven't not performed yet, we forego or we forfeit whatever improvements we do to the land as liquidated damages.
That's interesting. So what are what concepts are the ones that are working, and do they vary state by state, or is it just one concept, or how do you come up with that concept? Do you have a team that does that?
Yes, I do. So we have 3 teams, and everybody's been doing something different. All right. So we have land down in Southern California, near the border, in San Diego County specifically. Whole lot of Indian reservations down there. All right. Well, we've been building rapport with and negotiating the development, business development with a couple of those tribes down there, and we can utilize the land for the purposes of doing business with the tribe, and we can take advantage of their sovereignty, create a business development together on that. And that's one aspect of what we're doing. Okay. Because of the nature of disclosure, I'm not going to put out the businesses that we're working on with them, but I'll just leave it at that. In Southern Utah and Montana, we have 200 acres in Southern Utah. Even has a 4,000-foot dirt airstrip so bush pilots can come fly in. We're utilizing that with another team, and we have 1,200 acres in Montana, and we're picking up, we're in negotiations. We already negotiated, but the contract's in for another 860 acres. And then the same owner still has another 1,100 acres that he's looking to get rid of after that, right? But we're in conversation with them. But we have 1,200 acres in Montana, and utilizing the training site in Utah, that's for survivalist training. So we're doing survivalist training and the opportunities for people there, and then also a sanctuary type site. So people, if they want to bug out, God forbid, society, goes to hell or whatever, people, they want to have that security to go somewhere, and there's money there. So we put all that together. In northern Idaho, specifically Lake Coeur d'Alene, there's a development that was developed before the crash, luxury home development on 200 acres. And they have a hard time selling lots because of the crash, but the roads are done, the lots are prepped, utilities are in, and all you have to do is just build houses. So we're turning that into an executive/corporate retreat area. We're going to build gigantic houses, 8,000 to 10,000 square feet, right? mansions for the most part for most people, have a certain amount of lockouts, so people can rent portions of the property and businesses can. And then we're going to, instead of the clubhouse, we're going to put a small conference center. So you're not going to have more than 300 people or maybe 400 people at the most on the site, but there's a huge money market there for it. And Lake Coeur d'Alene is a beautiful spot if anybody's ever familiar with in northern Idaho. So those are the kind of concepts that we put together. There was one property that we were in negotiations for. It kind of fell through, but we were looking to put a wild animal sanctuary there. And Mr. O and his partners have interest already in one. So they're like, we can do this again. It'll make money. So again, instead of putting out what we want to create and then find the land for it, we go find the land for the people that want to, basically partner with us, because that's what it is. They act as a partner. They make 25% on their asset, right? Or up to 25% on their asset, excuse me. And then we go identify what makes sense for us to do with that land. And that's where the turn is. And it's allowed us to do quite a bit so far. Honestly, finding land's really gotten easy for me. And I'm not trying to say that to toot my own horn or anything. It's just, I know what I'm looking for. There's no competition. It's just a matter of finding the right person. And you'd be surprised what you can find in a conversation with 2 or 3 landowners and who's willing to play and who's not.
So when you get the land and then you kind of come up with the concept, who is the end buyer? Because you're saying in 6 months and all these different things, are you selling that land off? Is Mr. O actually coming in and doing the development and buying the land? I mean, what is the exit?
Check this out. And y'all, and whoever's on this podcast is getting a heck of an education right now, because this is stuff that we don't normally put out. Basically, we set it up to where only a small portion of land pays for the rest. So I can develop and we can use only a small portion of land, have the money come in from investors and whatnot from that, and pay off the rest. And then I own the rest of the land to go sell lots or do whatever else I want to go do with. And that's a massive way to build wealth. So it just depends. Every concept is different. Every end buyer is different. All right. Some people are, some concepts we want to go find investors that want to, private money, that want to just be passive investors. Knock yourselves out. Some concepts, one of the concepts, I have a feeling that after we develop it, we're probably just going to sell it off. That's going to be our end result. And then we'll move on to the next thing, or the team will move on to the next thing. So it really varies depending on the development itself.
That's
I know
amazing.
It's vague, but I can't,
No, it's vague, but it's just, I mean, this is kind of dropping bombs. It's just one of those things where, you don't hear this often. This isn't the norm. I mean, there's a ton of people out there doing everything from wholesale to rentals to syndications to flips, but this is just unique. And it's unique in the sense of how you're doing it as well. And even without Mr. O, I think now you probably could, but I mean, why not associate yourself with a billionaire? Because that's kind of how I built everything that I've done, is by surrounding myself, my network, around billionaires, multimillionaires, because they know things we don't know. That's all there is to it. They have the networks, the resources, and all those things to make it all happen. So let's just take that kind of next couple minutes, and I want to talk a little bit about your network and kind of how you've leveraged the RIA, the Outback RIA, which is now we'll just talk about the Outback RIA, and I'll let you transition it.
Sure.
And how you've used that to help your business, to help your network, and how, through the whole thing, it kind of led you to where you're at now. So, because network is such a huge thing. I was just out in LA at a mastermind, and that mastermind had billionaires, multimillionaires, and I surround myself with these people. And, like you were saying, a lot of people think, oh, they're jerks, and some of them are. But once you kind of get in their circle and you provide value to them, you provide value to the people that they surround themselves with, they welcome you in so quickly, and they want to basically see you succeed. It's not even like, so many of us have these situations where it just feels like everybody just wants to take from us. And that's just the general nature of being in business. But once you get to that level of a network, those people truly want to see you succeed. And all you need to do is bring value. All you need to do is be able to solve a problem that they have. And just because they're a billionaire doesn't mean they don't have problems. They have all sorts of problems that all of us can solve. So talk a little bit about how you went from the RIA, networked up, and how you did that, because that's so vitally important. People just miss this all the time.
Absolutely. And I'm a huge believer in networking with your local investors, period. Okay. We have, I believe, 2 extremes, and I'll probably tick people off when I say this, but it really
Go ahead, do it. I do it all the time.
So you have literally two extremes in terms of the network or who you could tie into when it comes to real estate investors. On the old end, and I say old because they're older than I am, you have the national RIA type events, right? And and again, it's not to knock them, but it's an older type of organization. It's more old school. It's obviously face-to-face networking and all that. But it's only limited to that. And then on the far end, you have something like Bigger Pockets or Connect an Investor, which is strictly an online setup the way it is, right? And the loudest voices on either end say, hey, this way's better or that way's better, right? I honestly believe there's a combination that you have to have in between. But you got people that say, hey, don't go to, meetups or or local events because somebody's just going to try to sell you something. Okay, that happens a lot. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, where else are you going to connect with the investor that understands your local area, that understands the idiosyncrasies of your market, right? That's had success in your market, not had your success 2,000 miles away somewhere else, right? Telling you how to do something. So there's a happy medium that you have to find in there. But really what it comes down to is if you're not face to face with somebody locally that's done something where you're at, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Now, that's one of the reasons why we harp on networking so much in the Outback. Don't just come to hear us get in front of you and talk smack about this or that. Connect with the people with you, right? Some people are newbies just like you. Some people are experienced. There's all kinds of folks you can tie into, but unless you engage with people, it doesn't matter. This is the other key thing concerning a network. Investing is a people business. I know people get into it thinking, hey, it's all about the numbers and keeping yourself emotionally detached from properties, which is a true thing. But man, if you're trying to find properties off market, where are you going to go find them from? You're going to go find them from the people that are into stuff, that are in distress, all right, that need some, that are probably going through some of the worst stuff in their life. And so that means that you got to deal with people issues. And whenever you got something that's people issues in a people business, that's a sales business. Mm-hmm. So it's all driven by people. It's all driven by the relationships, and sales is driven by the relationships that you create. So there's that. The Outback itself, I started identifying that people are coming to us and automatically put yourself, and I'm just talking about in a kind of a RIA holding an event type thing. People find, they find you as the person of influence, as weird as that sounds, right? So if you create a network and you're in the center of it and you're providing whatever knowledge out for everything else, it draws people into you. All right. You turn into, what's the word I'm looking for? The destination for folks. And that's kind of what happened with the Outback. I didn't do any kind of SEO, but if you type in Las Vegas, real estate or Las Vegas investor networks, we pop up on page one, but that's just because we've been around for so long. And we just constantly are consistent. So if you're going to hold a meeting or try to create anything like that, be consistent, make it pay for itself. There's that. But when it comes to going out to network with people, you have to go network with people. You have to identify who has a clue and who doesn't. There's nothing wrong with the person that doesn't. And then you have to level up. Like you said, the mastermind that you went to, the way these people think is completely different than everything else. Mm-hmm. Mr. O, he says, John, I'm here to train you to think like a billionaire and then act on those thoughts like a billionaire. And it's a whole different mindset. And the worst part is, and this is where people have to really figure things out, to get higher in whatever your net worth is, you have to go find the people that are there. And that means you have to shed some old things or some old beliefs or some old things that are things that are holding you back, or unfortunately people that could be holding you back, and go network with a whole different group. And one of the things that and you need to get around people that think bigger than you. That is a huge, huge thing. And this is not a knock on anybody doing residential real estate. Residential real estate is where I started, and it's a huge wealth builder for everybody. But man, if I put that much money into a house and I'm only making $20,000-$30,000 off of it, depending, and I'm putting all that work in, let me go find out how I can work bigger to work a bigger deal that I can put the same amount of work in or less, using more of my thought process or my head, and then let me create 6 figures for myself or 7 figures for myself. And that's the thought process I have to have now. And so if you want to increase your network, you literally have to get around the people that think bigger than you, so you can have that thinking imparted upon you and the people that can support you to do that, so then you go create more for yourself. And And that's kind of what Enigma is. Like we talked about the Outback. The Outback over time grew to the largest real estate investor meeting in Vegas. And I guess in Nevada, I mean, because Vegas is 3/4 of the population's here, right? So there's that. But then to think bigger than just real estate, all right? The stuff I'm doing business development. I mean, it starts with the land, but when it all comes down to it, I'm building businesses and my teams are building businesses. So that's when the opportunity said, hey, I want to do this. I want to do it on a bigger level. You know, Mr. O offered that. And I want to create thousands of people and a network of thousands to do this across the country and all kinds of businesses. That's the bigger play for me. And then we're created the network to allow for people that want to come there, they can do that. But it's all about, you know, how to think like a billionaire and act on those thoughts like a billionaire. So Enigma Mastery, you know, just the name of it, there's a few things that fly in there. Enigma is actually an acronym. E for entrepreneurial, N for neuroplasticity, meaning the changes in your mind, the process of how you change your thoughts and your thought process. I for inspiration, for the concept developments that we do. G for genius. M for magnetism, you know, becoming a magnet and a magnate and trying these things to you. And then A for accomplishments.
Like that.
That's what the Enigma is. And the wealth building aspect and the business building aspect and the change that people want to create in their lives to build massive amount of wealth, that is an Enigma for everybody. And so this is Enigma Mastery. We're going to take this Enigma that everybody's trying to, wrap their head around and get success with, and we're going to master it. So that's why it's the Enigma Mastery Group.
I love it. That's awesome. I didn't know it was broken down that way, but that's genius. So that's a lot of stuff. So this audience watching this, I'm sure you guys just got a lot of information you've never heard. You haven't heard it on this podcast. You probably haven't never heard anything like that on anyone else's podcast. And the reason for it is Mr. O, the billionaire, thinks different. And because of that, Jon has, you know, and he didn't tell you this, but Jon didn't just waltz up and introduce himself to Mr. O. And Mr. O was like, hey, Jon, welcome home. Come on in. No, Jon had to basically earn his right in that. And Jon, if I'm not mistaken, you had to pay your way into that, right? Because knowledge is not free. So you had to pay for Mr. O to teach you how to think like a billionaire and act on billionaire thoughts. I might have got that wrong, but close enough.
Close. You're close.
Close enough.
Good enough.
So, you know, I just don't want anyone watching this to think that, you know, that these billionaires and multimillionaires are sitting out there waiting for you to show up on the front step in order to just say, hey, I'm here. I'm here. Can I work with you? No, you have to earn that right. And that is the thing that you need to start thinking about. So whether it be earning that right by going to a RIA and finding the people that you associate with, the people that you can help their businesses, the people that you can provide value to, and then find ways to continually help people solve their problems. Because if you can help enough people solve their problems, they will solve every one of your problems. And with that being said, Jon, like if my audience wants to find you, wants to reach out to you, how do they go about doing that outside of flying out to the Enigma Mastery or, you know, your local events?
Okay. Because we're in transition right now and I'm still changing over emails and everything else. I'm going to do something that's probably against my better judgment, but I'll give everybody my phone number and I'll ask you to text me, not call me.
Oh boy.
All right. Literally, you can find me at 702-518-3652. And I don't, so again, 702-518-3652. And I don't normally answer my phone during the day. So you can leave a voicemail and I'll maybe get to it in the next day or two, or you can leave me a text message and I can give you a faster response. And just let me know that, hey, I saw you on Chris' podcast, and we'll go from there. And then over time, Enigma Mastery, we have our first launch event tomorrow evening here in Las Vegas. We also have, which is October 3rd. We also will be eventually putting up our website and everything else, but we're just moving very quick. This whole transition happened within a couple of weeks of getting the offer and then having to come up with the decision of how do we adjust. And a lot of times, huge opportunities come where you have to make changes on a dime. So that's one thing to always keep in mind with business. One other thing to bring up, Chris, if because you'll be there too in Las Vegas. And one of the things is any kind of real estate person, there's two things you always need. Where do I find a property and where do I find the money? Right? Well, most people think the money is the hard part, but it's really not. Normally
it's the easiest.
It's the property that's the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
But a few years ago, I had everybody come up and complain to me, man, I can't find money. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. One, I started in creative finance, so I did no money down property all the time, lease option financing, lease option subject twos and owner financing when it made sense. So that's where I started, and that's how I know how to leverage property the way I do. And that's why doing these options was an easier transition for me than it is for a lot of people, is what it is. But a few years ago, I started putting together, it took everybody's complaints, put together all the needs that investors have, and then where are those funding needs that they have. And I created a 2-day event called the Capital Funding Summit. Okay. And I held 2 of them before in the last 2 years. They were huge successes. People enjoyed them. People got a lot of good info out of it. And that Capital Funding Summit is simply designed to take all your BS money excuses away. It's designed to put you in front of the type of lenders, to train you on what's available and what's out there, different type of lending, the different kind of capital, the different kind of financings out there. It's designed to put you in front of lenders so that you can actually engage with these people and not be scared of the hard money people or the portfolio lenders because you think they charge you too much, and you get an understanding what they are. There's all kinds of bridge funding. There's even EMD funding that private people will do. It's hilarious, all the stuff that's out there, but you don't know about it. So I actually joined up with Think Realty magazine. And by the way, all the work I've done with Mr. O and the land development, I was awarded the Think Realty Commercial Investor of the Year, which I'm proud of. I'm still wrapping around my head about what that means for me and how we did it. But it allowed for that. But Think Realty is somebody that I partnered with, the publication. And we're doing a joint event in Las Vegas where the next Capital Funding Summit is November 5th and 6th in Lake Las Vegas, specifically at the Westin. And anybody can go to Think Realty events, thinkrealty.com/events, and find the Las Vegas conference there. And this is 2 days of training where it's for less than $100. And I'm emceeing it. Myself and another partner of mine are emceeing it. Chris will be speaking at one of the rooms. And if you have any questions about money, and it's in Las Vegas, but fly on down. But if you have any questions about money, you need to be there. For $100, you're never going to find a bigger value in terms of financing, leverage, and understanding where can I can find a property, where can I get the money? The money's there. You have to burn into your soul. This is something I believe heavily about. You need to burn into your soul, i.e. your subconscious. There's more money out there than the real estate available. And I firmly, firmly, firmly believe that. There is more money out there than real estate available. All the money I need for my real estate's available and out there. You just got to know where to look for it. Doesn't matter how bad your credit is, doesn't matter how inexperienced you are, there are people and there are resources out there for you. I need to get off the soapbox about it, but November 5th and 6th, the Capital Funding Summit, go to thinkrealty.com/events, and you'll find the Las Vegas conference there, and that's the Capital Funding Summit. And it's the best bang for your buck. So,
yeah, and I'm really excited to be speaking there. I've actually got 2 events out in Las Vegas. This is the one that I'm the most excited about. So if any of you are looking to learn how money works, how it really works, where all the money is for all the deals you're ever going to want to do, that's how you do it. thinkrealty.com. Is it /events or say that one more time? /events. And I will see you guys there. With that being said, I got to wrap this up. So for all of you watching this, you guys just got some serious golden nuggets. It's your job to take action on what you just learned. I don't care what action you take, just research it. Book your tickets out to Las Vegas. Get your event tickets to go to the Think Realty event. Whatever your action is, read a book. For crying out loud, just do something and get out there and make it happen. So thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Real Estate Money School. And you guys, I'm watching and I can't wait to kind of keep bringing you this value, bringing you everything you need to know about money and how money plays a part in your business, and bringing people like Jon Lee on the show to talk to you about some of these principles that we've never heard about is truly an honor. So thank you, Jon.
I appreciate being here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. See everybody later. We'll catch you on the next episode.